Genetically engineered Bacillus thuringiensis corn and Roundup Ready soybeans were made commercially available in the United States in 1996. That same year, the U.S. Department of Agriculture's National Agriculture Statistics Service began tracking genetically engineered crops. 4 years later, in 2000, 3 levels of classification were instituted for levels of genetically engineered corn. These included insect-resistant, herbicide-resistant, and stacked. In 2000, 75% of the corn varieties grown in the U.S. were non-genetically engineered. Now, in 2016, only 8% remains non-GE, and 76% are stacked. The first BT corn were designed to integrate a pesticide to eliminate the pesky European corn borer, and the first variety of herbicide-resistant soybeans were engineered to withstand glyphosate. These two methods gave farmers a new, inexpensive way to promote the growth of their new crops. Soon after this breakthrough, new pyramiding of multiple Bt proteins for managing European corn borer and corn rootworm were released. Integrated pest management, IPM, began to receive attention in the 1970s, which coincided with a dramatic increase in pesticide use. This intensification of pesticide application had consequences, as lack of knowledge and information led to improper management of the chemicals, leading to pest resistance, contaminated water, and wildlife concerns. Following these concerns, organizations began to implement IPM tenets for use of pesticides. These included use on selective pests instead of a broad range, and use of multiple pest management tactics, biological, mechanical, and chemical. Along with these guidelines, IPM can be framed into the 3 R's: right amount, right time, and in the right place. This method is much different than shock and awe pest management, which allows for the most complete pest management in a farmer's field. Shock and awe pest management is the treatment of almost every acre with a collection of pesticides, even if some pests don't represent an economical loss. The best corn and soybean crops that farmers can grow come with the glyphosate-resistant gene. And although some farmers might prefer other chemicals, it doesn't make sense for them to switch, because they already pay for this resistant quality. This creates a huge dependence on glyphosate, which goes directly against IPM's tenet of using a broad range of pesticides. Shock and awe pest management benefits 2 main groups of people: farmers and seed and chemical suppliers. For farmers, shock and awe pest management benefits include reduced seed production, reduced distribution, and reduced inventory cost by making it possible to meet farmers' crop protection needs with a one-size-fits-all product that is conveniently packed into the seed. For the seed company, the benefits include adapting the agronomic traits of corn and soybeans to better match variation across the landscape in soils and climate, resulting in regionally adapted varieties. More benefits include adapting genetically engineered crop protection traits to better match variation in pest problems across the landscape. This offers a cost of offering a complete suite of crop protection which can be negligible. Seed is successfully transformed to include genetically engineered crop protection traits. Scaling up is just a matter of seed replication, regardless of whether there is a single trait or a bundle of many traits. Because the Environmental Protection Agency requires farmers to plant a proportion of conventional corn, BT corn helps manage the evolution of insect resistance and protects acres of conventional corn from large threats of pests. Companies were then able to use the multiple BT proteins per pest pyramiding principle to secure changes to the regulations that reduce the required proportion of conventional corn from 20% to 5% in the Corn Belt. With lower conventional corn requirements, farms could protect more of their corn crop with BT traits. Shock and awe pest management helps to reduce the number of field operations and making the time of those operations more flexible and convenient. Shock and awe pest management faces challenges and concerns. Tom Vilsack, who works in the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, commented that there is an increase in the number of species of weeds with multiple herbicide resistance. In 2001, experts also discovered that western corn rootworm were resistant to one of 3 types of Bt proteins being deployed to control it. In 2014, this team also discovered a western corn rootworm with crossed resistance to 2 of 3 types of Bt proteins. Moreover, the use of sub-neonicotinoid insecticides changed bee behavior, decreased the population of bees, as well as decreased the population of monarch butterflies. There are 5 parts in the future of corn and soybean pest management: the vision of resilience rather than sustainability, the socioeconomics of pest management, sources through different work group associations, securing financing and other resources, and the multiple tactic principle of integrative pest management. Shock and awe pest management is still not a perfect form of pest management. Some farmers do not manage pesticide resistance because the cost of management is immediate and certain, while the benefits that do come later are most likely uncertain. Moreover, pests can spread resistance through a region, which can make a farmer's resistant management efforts useless unless neighbors are also managing their own resistance. Institutional innovation needs to include strategies for managing privacy concerns with the type of information being collected and disseminated, for additional incentives to develop and maintain these networks. Multiple tactics are also important for managing intermittent pest infestation or population resurgences. More about the future of corn and soybean pest management. We need to keep studying new defenses and ways to deploy existing defenses. A more resilient pest management strategy cannot be achieved without recognizing and avoiding the behavioral tendency towards overconfidence. Most agriculture input decisions are relatively short-term, reoccurring annually or biannually in the case of crop rotations. Farmers may decide to maximize profits in producing a crop with the optimal combination of inputs or produce a given level of crop output with the least cost combination of inputs, thus including pest control. As resistance to pesticides grows, demand for glyphosate will increase. The graph, as shown, can illustrate the shift in the demand curve once glyphosate becomes more needed. This will result in Monsanto needing to supply more chemical in order to meet the new demand of producers. Implications on agriculture. With a concern for glyphosate-resistant weeds on the rise, tough times may be on the horizon for many farmers. Glyphosate is now the most heavily used agriculture chemical ever, with approximately 9.4 million tons sprayed since its release in the 1970s. This is extremely alarming for producers, as for much of its lifespan, glyphosate has been used recklessly and improperly. This incorrect usage is leading agriculture to higher costs and possibly superweeds that have no way of being controlled. With the introduction of glyphosate-resistant weeds, chemical researchers have been frantically trying to create new herbicides that have different modes of action. These new chemicals have had a resounding effect on weeds, yet much of the new technology is becoming increasingly expensive. With a large number of weeds becoming resistant to a variety of group herbicides, the list for pesticide control is becoming smaller once again. With the new pesticides being more expensive and farmers vying for increased application, pesticide management prices have skyrocketed. For producers in the farming community, this is troublesome. Producers' margins are small to begin with, and adding an increased cost on pesticide application could spell the end for many farmers. Not only will the initial cost of the chemical be hazardous, but also increasing application and using more chemical will add up on the farmer's bottom line. One of the largest problems the Canadian ag industry will face is the introduction of glyphosate-resistant superweeds. The cause for this infestation dates back again to the improper use of glyphosate for the first 30 years of his pesticide career. By overusing and never changing methods of control, resistant weeds could grab hold of once overpopulated prairie soil. For farmers, once these weeds became dominant in the field, they had limited options to control them. Little did they know that by consistently spraying glyphosate, they were steadily adding to the problem. As stated before, present-day agriculture has done a great job of releasing new chemicals that use varying modes of action to kill weeds. This finally allowed farmers to control some of these superweeds. Yet many of these weeds are becoming resistant to new chemicals, thus presenting Canadian ag with the same problem as before. If chemical researchers cannot keep creating new chemicals that use different methods to kill plants, then soon Canadian fields may be overrun with chemical-resistant weeds. This will result in complete disaster for producers, as without a chemical option to control pests, farmers will have to resort back to tillage. This will limit moisture holding in the soil, as well as eliminate much of the topsoil that has recovered since the beginning of no-tillage agriculture. Without the ability to use chemicals, agriculture will be stuck in pre-1970s practice, which includes maximum tillage and summer fallow. Thanks everyone for watching.